Thanks for listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast brought to you by DraftKings. Great deal going on. You put down a deposit, you can get up to $1,000 in free plays. Who doesn't want that? Now, joined by the ultimate Arizona women's basketball insider, the great PJ Brown. PJ, you do a better job of telling people where to find you than I can. So first, before we get started, where can they find you, the one-stop shop for everything Arizona women's basketball?
Sure. Either get a subscription to Tucson.com, I have to say that, or download the free app, the Wildcaster app, and you can get all of my stories, plus Bruce Pascoe on the men's basketball team, and of course, Michael Lev on football, which is happening right now, and baseball, as well as some other fun stuff on there. So if you want anything Arizona, download that free Wildcaster app or get a subscription to Tucson.com.
All right. So Arizona, it seems like every time we turn around, and we're going to circle back to PJ saying about 4 or 5 months ago, people, don't worry about things. It's going to be okay. Adia's got a plan. Adia Barnes' latest commitment, Jada Williams. Now, stop me if you've heard this before. Top 20 prospect out of California, UCLA decommit. How did this happen?
Sure. I haven't talked to Jada yet, and I haven't talked to Brea, her teammate, who is also a top commit. She's number 10 on the ESPN rankings. Both of them are 5 stars, and both played this summer for USA Basketball, bringing home the gold from the under-17 World Cup in Hungary. But from what I can tell, is that they're teammates in high school. They both play for La Jolla Country Day. And a combination of getting the opportunity to play with your teammate more, and let's face it, every recruit, every freshman I talk to, even a junior or senior I talk to, the reason they come to Arizona is Adia Barnes. Right. So there's all of this, plus, you know, when we're talking about recruiting, we're talking about looking at this year's freshman class, which is a top 6. I think it was number 6 in recruiting this year. And Adia's going to have a back-to-back class of top 10. This one's already shaping up. I'm hearing that it could be 3, 2, possibly 1. I don't know. But really back-to-back classes, top classes in recruiting. And, you know, if you're a high school kid right now and Adia Barnes gives you an offer, like, it's hard to turn down, because you know you're playing with great players and you have the opportunity to play for a great coach, develop, as we always talk about how she develops her players, and go far in the NCAA tournament. So, you know, for all of these players, I mean, Jada said in her video when she told the team and the coaches that she was coming to Arizona, she said, it sounds corny, but I felt at home. And that's what you hear over and over again from these players when they come to Arizona, is they felt like they were at home. They felt comfortable. You don't always hear that in other places.
But want to give a quick little update, and then I want to get into that a little bit. But this isn't from Adia Barnes. As everybody knows, she's having a couple health issues. Or not a couple, but I'll just let Adia speak for herself. Here's what she says. Getting an ultrasound yesterday on my abdomen, and the guy says, poop and gas, poop and gas. I said, thinking emoji. He said, look. He proceeded to show me. I said, well, I guess I'm full of poop. So another way right there. So it sounds like she'll be okay. She's on the mend. So, you know, nothing doesn't sound like anything serious there. So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. So we hope she gets better soon, and that she can take a little time for herself in the next couple weeks before she starts preseason practice and training, because it's going to be a big season in front of her.
What is her recruiting like? And I guess what I mean by this is, does she go into a class, say, let's use 2023 for example, and zero in on, say, 6 players that she wants, or does she look around? Does she throw a lot of offers at players? How does she really go about doing that? I've always been curious about that.
Sure. And before I answer that, I have to apologize for everything, including the phone that's going on. This is real life. We have the cleaning crew in. They're making a lot of noise. My mom might even pop in the room.
And we always welcome moms. We are a mom-friendly show on here, right here.
Yeah. And so the phone's ringing, of course.
Right. No, you're good.
You know, Adia, I've talked to Adia a little bit about her recruiting. For all college coaches, it's difficult. You have to look not only about who you have today, but, you know, years in the future. So now she's getting verbal commitments for next year's class, 2023. But she's already offering kids for 2025 and 2026.
Right.
Because she was out on the road, and in July is a big recruiting month. There's 2 different sections where they have a lot of tournaments going on, and all the coaches go, and the gyms are packed in all those cities, and that's where they see kids. And they also see them before, and they hear from AAU coaches and everything. But it's really an involved process. I know that she even uses technology, but she also uses old school stuff. She has a big whiteboard in her office, and it has her players today and what next year will look like, and the year after. She's got a number of years already planned out, depending on who she gets, and if the kids are going to stay 4 or 5 years, like Cate Reese and Shayna Pellington are 5th-year seniors now. You know, Helena Pueyo is a 4-year senior. We don't know if
you're big on, by the way. You're always telling, don't sleep on Helena Pueyo this year.
Yeah, and I have a story coming out on Sunday, and Helena's in it. And I'll give you a little preview. It's about 4 players on the current team played for their national teams this summer and brought home medals. And Helena was one of them. And I would say, and I think I've said here before, watch out for Helena. Keep an eye on her this year. She played 3, they call it 3x3. It's really 3-on-3 basketball. She won a gold medal for Spain this summer. And it's a really, I don't know if you saw it in the Olympics last year. I love the sport. It's fast paced. You really
it is. It's moving.
It moves. You have to pay attention. You have to do a little bit of everything. And I think that it's really helped Helena grow in her game. And I think that we'll see it on the court this year. So that's just a little aside about Helena. But yeah, Adia has this all mapped out. She uses all the tools that everybody else uses. And she knows like what she has, what she wants to have, and has it all set up on how to try to get those players. And then if something happens and she doesn't get a big say that she wants for a class, then she dips into the portal and she fills those gaps until she can get that player. So that's a little bit about her technique of looking at recruiting. But, you know, it's a year-round job.
No doubt.
Recruiting on itself. In fact, they have directors of recruiting who sort of look at a lot of stuff and then bring the stuff to the coaches to look at. Adia is really hands-on and involved in her recruiting from beginning to end. And I think that that's part of the reason that a lot of these kids just fall in love with her. I just talked to Montea Dew the other day, and, you know, she has been talking to Adia, I think, since 9th grade or something.
Right.
And, you know, and she was really young, but she said that when she sort of figured out what was going on, it was a no-brainer that she wanted to play for
Right.
Adia. And
All right,
same with Maya Hilton. I talked to her this week, and she told me the same thing, that she had always talked to, you know, Adia was in on her recruiting early, and when she was ready, again, it was just a no-brainer. She felt like, you know, like we all feel, Adia's genuine, down to earth, and what you see is what you get from her. She's very transparent, not only as a coach to the media and to the fans, but also to her players. They know all the time, you know, what they're doing right, what they're doing wrong.
They know where they stand.
They know where they stand, and they know how to get better because she lays out a path for them.
All right. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some interesting lineup possibilities as well, and possibly what's next as well on the recruiting front, but got to pay the bills. 21 DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. Everybody out here knows the drill. You put down a deposit, you can get up to $1,000 in free plays, 21 and up, Arizona only. Got a gambling problem, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. I'll tell you what, if I could bet futures on Arizona basketball over the next 5 to 6 years, that would probably, if that was a possible line, that's where they would have it. Check out the DraftKings Sportsbook app again, code word PHNX. Again, women's basketball is a hot betting item these days. A lot of people like doing it. And you know what? And I think that just shows you the growth and the popularity of the sport right there. So again, check it out. DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. Okay. What's the, PJ, let me ask you this. 2023, because everybody likes recruiting rankings. Everybody likes recruiting classes. Everybody does. I don't know anybody that doesn't. Do you know how many players that Adia is maybe looking to take in this class? And the reason I ask is because right now you got 3 likely McDonald's All-Americans, and everybody likes to see Arizona at the top of those rankings. What's next? Is Arizona looking to fill a few more of those spots?
I know that they're in the running for at least 2 other top players.
Mm-hmm.
They're on their top 5 or 6 list.
Right.
And I believe, and both of those players played in it's confusing, under 18,
yeah, for sure.
FIBA's Americas tournament in Buenos Aires. They're players in the U.S., and they were teammates of Kailyn Gilbert. They were teammates of Kailyn Gilbert, and they know, but they're in the class. Were they in, or she, or I'm getting confused again. They may have played in the under 17. This is probably what they played in. But they were teammates with Brea. I think they were under 18. So I'm getting a little confused, but they were in USA basketball, and they played with some players who are already either at Arizona or coming to Arizona. So there's a good shot that one or both of those players could come to Arizona.
Did you know? Let me ask you this, and this is again always why I tell people to follow PJ Brown, because again, the ultimate insider right here. Keep in mind, I had PJ on. This was 4 months ago, and this was after, because everybody's nervous about all these roster, I almost said transactions, these roster, movements. And PJ came on here and said, they've got a plan. Don't worry about it. This roster is going to be filled out just fine. Fast forward, you're looking at this roster coming forward. Not only did you add a Esmery Martinez, you added Jade LaVille, you've added a Lauren Fields, you've added a lot of different players on top of the recruits you're bringing in. Now, I asked you last time about a possible supersized lineup where at times you go with a Maya Nnaji, a Lauren Ware, who you're really bullish on this year. But maybe I asked the wrong question. Now that you've got a Jada Williams in here, coming in the following season, along with the Kailyn Gilbert and a Paris Clark, could you be looking at a lot of 3-guard lineups as well?
You could. The only thing is Montana Dew is a forward, but she's more Sam Thomas-like, I think. Right. So, and she was on ESPN's list of best players in 2023 at different things, like best scorer, best shooter, best leader. Best leader was Jada.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got the best leader coming in. And Montea was the best facilitator or passer,
Right.
which is interesting because she's a forward.
Right.
So usually we think of that as guards. However, a couple of years ago, Arizona had a player named Dominique McBride.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember Dominique McBride,
oh yeah,
the entire offense went through her.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be a pass into her, like in a pass out. She would sort of command the offense a bit. And could we see something that harkens back to that? I don't know. But I do think that they're going to have a lot of really good bigs. I mean, besides Montea, I mean, think about it. Maya Nnaji, all world. Brea Cunningham, all world. I mean, last year as a junior, Brea averaged, I believe, basically a double-double, like 18 points, 11 rebounds.
19.2 points, 12.1 rebounds right there. Yep. Okay.
And a couple steals a game and a few blocks a game. So, you know, it'll be interesting what Adia decides to do, because everybody who you're going to put out to play, so they're a 5-star, but they're great players. They're coming in as already exceptional players, sort of a step up. And with either being McDonald's All-Americans or playing for USA Basketball or both. And so whatever lineup you put out there is going to be great. It's really going to be a matter of chemistry again. And with Jada and Brea coming in as teammates, they've got that chemistry thing locked up. And if you looked at some of the photos when Jada committed, it was like the whole this year's freshman class and part of next year's freshman class together. They already look like they're friends. They know each other.
The camaraderie's already there.
Yeah. So I think going forward, you're going to see a lot of this. I think you're going to see more of this. There's a lot of reasons why Jada picked Arizona. We talked about all the things like that, but I think you'll see a lot of this. Oh, I played with so-and-so, or I played against them, or we're friends and I want to play with them. Right. So I think that you're going to get some of those where they're just going to come along for the ride, because all the other things are in place, right? The coach is great. The program's great. They have a great culture. They do stuff in the community, which is another reason why I would, from what I've read, imagine why Jada is selected Arizona. She's very much into giving back. So besides her big NIL deals, she had a deal with Spalding, and part of the deal is that she's able along with them is that they give back to the community. She is very aware of that. So it's not just like, let's get a big deal. It's because I can do this, I can do good. And that fits in with what Adia Barnes is doing here at Arizona.
I heard I had somebody ask me a question here that I think is the ultimate compliment in the question. I'll throw it at you in just a second. Wanted to tell you all about Four Peaks Brewery as well, the official beer of PHNX. Go on the website right there, enter for raffles, all kinds of good stuff. Good beer right there. On top of that, FOCO, the #1 licensed sports paraphernalia in the entire world. You can go and get cards, you can get paraphernalia, you can get merchandise, everything that you want. Especially if you're a sports fanatic, this is the place you want to be. Check it out, FOCO. Okay, a question that I was asked, and it kind of took me aback a little bit here, was with all the players coming in now, how many of these players do we need to worry about leaving to the WNBA early? Which was just the ultimate because you look at schools like like an Oregon, they have to deal with that from time to time. You have to, a UConn, just on and on down the list. Now that I'm actually fielding questions about that, that's when that at least in the recruiting rankings, Arizona has really arrived, PJ.
Yeah. So first of all, we have to let everybody know the WNBA and women's college basketball don't have a deal that players can come out early. Right. You have to be a certain age, and that age, I believe, is 20. I want to say it's 22.
Right.
So that's why Arie McDonald thought about coming out the year earlier, because remember, she sat out a year, and those were really her 4 complete years. So she was old enough to be eligible for the draft. So it won't happen until somebody
comes in as a 19-year-old freshman.
Right. Yeah. No 19-year-old freshman is going to say, oh, I played 1 year, I'm going to the pros. Not like with the men. It's completely different. You might get someone who, trying to think, going forward, it would only be like it
would either be a transfer, because you hit the nail on the head. It would either be a transfer, or it would have to be somebody that is an older freshman. So, but even then, they could only leave as a junior, because they couldn't leave as a sophomore unless they're somehow coming in as a 20-year-old freshman.
Right. And if somebody got injured and then they redshirted and then they came back and played a year and then they were of that age and they decided, well, I don't need my extra year, I'm just going to go pro.
Right.
And the other difference is that at the moment, WNBA rookies don't make the money, and even the stars don't make the money that the men make. So, like on the men's side, Dalen Terry came out, right? And people didn't know where he would go, right? Remember, there was a question of where the mock drafts, which are usually wrong, right?
For sure. I love looking at him, but I know I'm looking at nonsense.
Yeah. And so now he signed for how much?
He's getting over $4 million. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Not even Sue Bird makes $4 million, or Diana Taurasi in the WNBA. So, and as a rookie, you're making like 60. They just raised it a few years ago. So you're making 60,000 or something. So while, you're going to school, cool, but now you have NIL. And so if you have a decent deal in NIL, you get some money. I mean, Jada's getting a lot of money.
Right.
And she's putting it in the bank and saving it for later. She's pretty smart about that. And she's in high school.
Yeah.
So as NIL deals grow, you're probably going to get more in college, maybe, than you would, depending on how good you are. Like an Arie McDonald would have gotten more in college than she would have gotten in her salary as a pro. So all these things are a little different. I wouldn't worry about players leaving early to go pro for the women, at least at this point. Maybe down the road, 10, I
always tell people that I would at least, and you would know more about this than I would, but I always tell people that when those contracts start hitting 6 figures in the WNBA, that's when I think it becomes more of an issue, because you're exactly right. If you're a star player right here, and let's just use Arie as an example, if you can get, say, you could get a really nice NIL deal, you're still living for free, everything's compensated as well. Is that something you really want to give up if you got another year when you can just pocket all that money, essentially?
Yeah, and the difference is that the other difference is when you go to a place like Arizona, I always talk to you about the development you get from Adia Barnes and Salvo Copa, and you can't get that at the pro level. Right. And if you do get something similar to that, because there are plenty of coaches out there, I'm not saying that there aren't, but you have to pay for it.
Right.
Here, you come back for your senior year or something, and you get the whole summer to work with Salvo and Adia, and it's free.
Right.
Right. It's essentially free. You're getting top-notch development free. Like, who wouldn't do that? this is part of the reason they come to Arizona, is because they've seen how Adia and Salvo worked with Ari. They've seen how Adia and Salvo worked with Sam Thomas. They see how Adia and Salvo worked with Cate Reese and with a Lauren Ware and a Shayna Pellington and all these players. And when you see that, it's a pull for these high school kids. It really is, because they know that they're getting top-notch development for the entire time that they're here. And it's part of the package, right?
Right.
We're not going to have to pay extra. I mean, some people do pay extra. I'm not going to say that. Maddie Connor has her own separate coach when she goes home. She pays somebody and works with them because she's a gym rat, right? Which is excellent. And that's fine. And she can do that. But I'm saying that people come because they know they know the full package, right, that they're getting here.
I want to get into a little bit now of next year before we sign off. But again, one more time, the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. Stop me if you've heard this before. Actually, don't stop me because I still got to keep saying it. You got a good deal going on. You put down a deposit, you get up to $1,000 in free plays, 21 and up, Arizona only. Got a gambling issue? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. I'm back in the A. I like Arizona's over 2.5 wins in football this year. They're trying to get to the point where Adia Barnes is now, where you're on top of the world. But you know what? You got to start at some place. And if you're bullish on that, or if you think I'm an idiot, you can go against me and say, you know what? Mike said that. I think he's wrong. Either way, check it out. Again, the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. All right. When I look at this team, and we've talked about this before, but I'm kind of obsessed about it. I get that the chemistry and everybody meshing is going to take some time. You got a lot of new faces. But when I look at this team, as opposed to even last year, and again, people talk about last year, and I think this is where you also know how far Adia has taken this program. Like, oh, man, but, last year, you were still a top 25 team almost the entire season. I mean, you had some flaws for sure. But I look at this team. You've got a lot of height. You've already got Nnaji. You've got Lauren Ware. You've got Esmery Martinez. You've got across the board, 6'2", 6'4", 6'4". You've got scoring now, theoretically. Cate, as we all know, can score, can put the ball in the hoop. Maya can do the same thing. Then you're bringing in a Lauren Fields. You're bringing in a Jade LaVille. You've also got, all your incoming players coming in. And you've got a Helena Puello. You've got a Maddie Connor, who, if she can maybe shore up the defense a little bit, can be a player. And then you've got a lot of dynamic players on the perimeter handling the ball with a Kailyn Gilbert, a Paris Clark, a Shayna Pellington. Just on paper, just as far as checking off boxes, there's a lot of boxes that this unit checks off here, PJ.
Absolutely. On paper, this is a better team than last year. On paper, right? And last year, on paper, we thought it was a really good team. They were a really good team. It's just that everybody's expectations after going to a national championship game were high. Even though everything, Ari McDonald wasn't there, there still were high expectations for last year to go further than they did, right? And but this year's team is still by far and above, on paper, a much better team. And also the idea that most of the players have been there all summer, working together, building that chemistry together. And other players have come in. So like Helena was out doing her thing with 3-on-3 basketball. And then she came back, in July, and now she's working with the team. Shayna was there. She went away to play with Team Canada, and then now she came back.
Right.
Kailyn and Lamaya came a little bit later because they played with USA Basketball, but they've been there. Maya's been there since like June 1st.
Right.
Lauren Fields and Esmery and all of them, and Lauren Ware, they've all been there all summer. That goes pretty far. Now, they're not doing 5-on-5. They're not doing regular practices. What they're doing is skill work, individual skill work. All the posts are working together. All the guards are working together. Plus they're lifting. They're learning how to lift, how to work out, They were doing yoga the other day. They do all kinds of stuff, and they do it together. That means that when, not that I want to get expectations high, because we probably should have tempered them a little bit last year.
Right.
I will say that.
But you've also got eyes. You know, you're an expert. You know when someone's got a little bit more juice.
Right. And I think that means, all of this means, because I'm really big on development, right? I talk about it all the time. I talk about how Adia Barnes and Salva Copa do. It's part of the secret sauce they have, right? It is part of what they do. I think that getting back to the basics now, which means having your players there most of this summer together, doing everything together, means that when you start preseason training, you are ahead of the curve. You don't have to go back and teach habits. These kids already have habits. I mean, you see their IGs, they're they're in McHale at 10:30, 11:30 at night, getting extra shots up together.
Right.
They have good habits. They're learning how to do the things the right way. Plus, they come and they get used to school because they have to take summer school, which means they're learning how to balance schoolwork and basketball. Now, it's going to get more intense during the season because it's different, but at least they have that foundation and they know what to do. So by the time September 1st, or, when school starts and then they have their preseason training, they're way ahead of the curve. Right. So even though we always say non-conference is the time where you sort of put it all together, and it still will be. I still think it will be. I think what you're going to see year over year at some point is that when the Adia Barnes teams, as she keeps recruiting these top 10 recruiting classes, Adia Barnes's teams are going to start the season like top schools start the season. Right. Like the South Carolinas and the Stanfords and the UConns, where they are already good, right? They're still working out kinks. And
you're already an oiled machine at that point.
Yeah.
Right?
There's something about those teams that they have a lot of things figured out that other teams are still trying to figure out. That stuff will already be taken care of. And I think that's what's going to happen in the future. And that is part of what then takes you, it all works together. It takes you to the next level. This is what I keep saying, that Adia's going to the next phase right now. Mm-hmm. This is all part of the next phase. When you keep getting top recruiting classes and the right kids in there, and that culture and everything comes together like that, you start out better, you finish better.
Right. She's PJ Brown, the Arizona Daily Star. I'm going to try reading it for you and tell me if I miss anything right here. First of all, follow PJ Brown, PJ Brown 09 on Twitter, and get a membership or get a subscription to the Arizona Daily Star. If for some reason you don't do that, download the Wildcaster app, because the Wildcaster app gives you free content to PJ, Bruce Pascoe, Justin Spears, across the board. But did I miss anything?
Michael,
and you've got an article coming up Sunday. You want to tease that?
I have an article about the 4 players who played for their national team this summer, and brought home medals. So that's great. 3 golds and 1 silver. I also have notes this week, and I have a story on Lamaya Hilton coming up this week to introduce everybody to her.
PJ, I can't thank you enough, and we'll obviously be talking with you soon. Always a source of information, and you're fantastic.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, you've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.